I don't know why, just for kicks, I guess, which is surprising because when you see this guy, when you see this elder, he's clearly of advanced age. I mean, he's got no teeth.
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this, well, cyclical. Yeah, let's use that. Cyclical adventure. Cyclical because everything has its season, right? As one season ends, we move into the next season. Everything has its phase. It's as if life is almost imperceptibly transitional, right? I'm most definitely aware of my season at the moment. And I also know and recognize that it will eventually transition into the next season, and then the next season after that, and the next season after that, and so on and so forth. And we're definitely going to touch on this a little later on in the episode. But I've been thinking about this because, well, one of the reasons is that this is officially our 30th episode. I mean, we've released more than 30 episodes, 30 shows with, the specials, the bonuses, the Path of the Wizard. We've done well over 30. But for regular season, right, Path of the Jedi regular season, this is officially our 30th episode. And, looking back, I can't help but think, wow, what a milestone. What a milestone. We started this adventure back in September 1st, as a matter of fact, when we released our first episode. And here we are. It's towards the end of April, and we're going strong. We're going strong. Sure, we've had little hiccups here and there. We've taken some time off for the holidays, but I'm definitely in a different season now than I was when we first started this adventure together. And in fact, I very much feel there's something in my guts telling me that I'm about to move into another season, that I'm transitioning into the next season, whatever that phase might be. I don't know if anybody else is feeling the same way right now. And if you are, please reach out, let me know, hit me up, because I would definitely love to hear about it. It's a little bit of a weird place to be. So I'm doing my best to just kind of trust the Force, right? Trust the Force, go with it, and be patient, right? And try my best to be patient as this transition happens into the next season. But anyways, suffice it to say, that's what's been on my mind, especially as I've gotten back home from taking some time off, back in the chair, back in the home studio, in the controlled environment where there's less distractions. And I'm still feeling more distracted than ever. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Thank you all for tuning in today. This is our 30th episode. I actually almost bagged this one for this week and called it a bide week because I'm still adjusting to being back home. But given that this is our 30th episode, I wanted to get on here and celebrate with you guys. And also, stay true to my dedication to staying consistent, right? I want to provide for you guys every week a quality episode. Also, kind of in the back of my mind, I want to make up a little bit for last week's episode. I do feel like I missed the mark with that one, given how scatterbrained I was. So, lots of reasons why I'm here today, and you are listening to our latest episode, even though it is a day late. So thank you guys, number one, for tuning in. Thank you for your patience with me while I was on vacation and traveling. And thank you for allowing me one day's grace period for this week's episode. Today we'll be discussing episode 7 of Star Wars Visions, The Elder. But before I get into that, I wanted to revisit last week's episode, TOB1. Well, as I said, because I feel like I missed the mark a little bit. I didn't feel that I articulated my thoughts and my ideas about that episode as well as I could have. So, going back to TOB1, the ideas I wanted to share with you guys from that episode revolve around fulfillment, because for me, that is the essence of that particular episode. We can sometimes get caught up in searching for fulfillment from external sources, right? From an achievement, from a job title, from an earned reward, a rank, the nice house, the nice cars, things like that. I mean, those are all well and good. However, fulfillment from those things will be at best fleeting, at worst completely non-existent. And then we end up going for the next thing, and the next thing after that, and the next thing after that. And it becomes this endless search. The truth is, we can't get fulfillment, true fulfillment, from things, from external sources, because fulfillment is a state of mind. It's in how you perceive your life, the things that you're doing, the experiences that you're having. Little Toby searched high and low, looking for the thing that he thought would bring him fulfillment. He searched the entire planet, as a matter of fact, and he still didn't find it. It wasn't until he went back to his original mission of bringing life back to the planet, work that, mind you, he originally found boring and mundane, work that had taken on a brand new meaning after the death of his caretaker and father figure, Professor Mitaka. It wasn't until then that he realized the object of his fulfillment was within him the entire time. How he perceived his work and his life changed, and so too did his mindset. And that's ultimately how he finds fulfillment. That's the message that I wanted to share with you last week. And hopefully I've done a better job at explaining it this week. And so let's table Toby 1 for now and move on to the Elder. Right off the bat, just the title alone, the Elder, it paints a very specific picture, or at least it can evoke very specific ideas when you read that. For me, when I read the title The Elder, I think experience, I think wisdom, right? Others might think something different. They might think frailty or infirmed or feeble even, right? Whatever the situation, the word itself, elder, draws up some very, very specific images, right, in your mind when you hear the word. And so I'm expecting an elder to be the centerpiece of this particular episode. Now, we're going to have to come back to that because we don't actually hear about the elder until at least a third of the way into the episode. And we don't actually see him. We're not introduced to him until the final third, right? Instead, at the beginning of the episode, we're introduced to two characters. We're introduced to a Padawan by the name of Dan, a very earthly name, and his master, who we just know as Master. He does have a name in the credits, but I don't think we ever actually hear that name in the episode. Anyways, that's besides the point. We have these two characters, the Master and the Padawan, and for what we can tell, it's a pretty typical Padawan-Master relationship, right? Our Padawan he's young, he's got a lot of energy, he's almost restless, right? Super eager. He wants to see more action. At the same time, I don't think he's fully sure of himself yet, right? I don't think he has 100% confidence in his own abilities. Maybe he's even a little uncertain of his future, right? And then we have his master, who, at least on the surface, he's very calm. He's very collected. He's very even keel, right? He's got this Zen nature about him, this internal confidence, and there's no pretense attached to it, right? It's not a place of ego or arrogance. It's just this internal certainty that he has. Now, because we have this dynamic between these two characters, the Padawan and the Master relationship, as a result, we also get a lot of little micro lessons, right? Every moment between these two is a teaching moment. And at this point, I'm fully expecting that they're going to go meet the Elder and it's going to kick things into high gear, right? Because the Elder, with his wisdom and experience, is going to impart all his knowledge onto these two. And it's not that didn't happen, right? It's not that there weren't any lessons passed on. It's just that it doesn't happen in the way that you might expect. Our Jedi eventually cross paths with the Elder, and we learn that this Elder is actually a Sith, or at least maybe not a Sith, but he's a wielder of the dark side of the Force, and a very powerful one at that. We learn that this Elder had actually baited the Jedi to come to that planet for the sole purpose of challenging them in combat, right? Hand-to-hand, one-on-one combat. I don't know why, just for kicks, I guess, which is surprising because when you see this guy, when you see this Elder, he's clearly of advanced age. I mean, he's got no teeth. And not that size matters in the Star Wars universe, especially, as Yoda proved. But this guy, this Elder, he's so old, he's shrunken to the point where he's a full head shorter than our Padawan. But this is just what he does, right? He seems to get this rush from challenging Jedi, fighting Jedi, I guess to prove, if to nobody else but himself, that he's still powerful, right? It's almost as if this is the way he can continue to relive his quote-unquote glory days. So they fight. He takes out the Padawan pretty easily, but eventually gets defeated by the Master. So what is the lesson here? What is the lesson? I mean, there's a lot, guys. There's really a lot. Again, the Padawan-Master relationship gives us pretty much the entire episode is a teaching moment. What I want to hone in on is the clash between these three characters who are in three distinctly different seasons in their lives, right? We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Seasons. If we're not mindful, if we're not careful, there can be a tendency to size somebody up based on their season, or at least what we think is their season. We can draw conclusions that may not be the complete picture. With our Padawan, Dan, we might think that because of his youth, he's overeager, he's overconfident, and that makes him reckless, right? Rushing into situations that he might not be able to handle. In fact, there's actually a lot more to that story, because at the end, in the closing scene, he asks his master, do you think my power will grow? So, we see that he's not really fully confident in his own abilities yet. With the master, with where he is in his season, we might think, okay, he's at his peak ability, and that's why he's so calm, he's so confident, right, and he's so cool. We learn at the end, however, that this calmness, this stillness that he has within comes from him having acknowledged and accepted the reality that his powers are actually no longer at their peak, that his powers are actually starting to decline. His calm and stillness coming from acceptance of that reality, which is completely opposite of the elder, right? The elder is off the chains, turns everything on its ear when it comes to what our expectations might be of somebody in that particular season, right? When we learn of the elder, the last thing we would think is that he'd be out here picking fights with Jedi, let alone that he'd be a dark side of the Force user. So you see, whatever conclusions we might draw, whatever snap judgments we might make of somebody based on what season we think they're in, they may be true to a degree. They might be true on a surface level, but we have to understand there's so much more going on there. There's so much more to the story. And so when we encounter people in our daily lives, especially people we're just meeting, we have to really be careful not to pigeonhole them into the very narrow definitions we might have about the specific situation or the specific seasons we might think they're in. So my advice is really work on being present, really work on being in the moment, so that when you go into an interaction, any interaction, you can go with a blank slate. That way, you leave yourself open to discovering people's true, authentic, and beautiful selves. All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode. Hashtag blank slate. I don't remember if I've actually talked about blank slate yet on this show, but it's something that I've spoken on extensively over the last, I'd say about 12 months. In the various groups and individuals that I coach and mentor. It's a super, I love the concept. I think it's incredibly important. And in opening us up to more possibilities, right? The more clean and open and blank your slate is going into any situation, the more open you are to possibilities. And in this case, with this particular episode of The Elder, it's, going in with fewer, if any, labels that you might be holding about the individuals that you're interacting with, right? So yeah, blank slate. You're going to definitely be hearing a lot more of that in future episodes. But for now, yeah, let me know what you think of today's episode, today's show. What do you think of blank slate? What do you think of the Elder, right? What are your thoughts on that? What lessons did you learn from the Elder? Let us know. Hit us up on our socials, Twitter and Facebook. It's POTJ Podcast. And of course, you can send an email or an MP3. Please, I would love to get an MP3. I haven't gotten an MP3 yet, so if you're brave enough, send an MP3 to info@pathofthejedi.com.
Classified, really?
And of course, if you haven't checked out our online communities yet, come check us out. We're on Facebook. We have a health and fitness community called Run Ronnie Run. It's facebook.com/group/Run Ronnie Run. It's a run club, but it's focused on obviously fitness and nutrition and health, all things health, right? And then we have our personal development community, Path of Growth, right? That's also on Facebook, facebook.com/groups. I almost got that wrong. Facebook.com/groups/Path of Growth. Those are two awesome communities. Path of Growth, we do a weekly call every Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where now we're doing a book discussion on the wisdom of compassion, which we are closing out this Sunday, and we're starting a new book next Sunday. Well, 2 Sundays from now as of this recording. So again, check those two communities out on Facebook. It's Run Ronnie Run and Path of Growth Community. All right, well, it's time for my favorite part of our show, the shout out. This week's shout out goes all the way to the West Coast, to Los Angeles, California, to my dear friends Leslie and Freddie Hashi. That's right, Leslie and Freddie. Speaking of seasons, I've known these two. I love these two. Not only, they're incredible individuals. They're so fun, so full of heart, and I've had the privilege of knowing them through many, many seasons of their lives thus far. I actually met them before they were even dating, and then the season of when they were dating, and then they got married, and now they're in a whole brand new season. They're expecting their first child together, and so it's just, I wanted to get on here, of course, again, to say that I absolutely love and appreciate them. I love the light and joy and happiness that they bring to my life, and especially to congratulate them on this new season that they're going into together as husband and wife. So exciting. I'm so thrilled, and I cannot wait to meet the new baby when this baby is born, right? So Freddie and Leslie, I am so ecstatic, so excited for the both of you and your 2 daughters. I'm excited for the entire family, and I wanted to say congratulations to both of you. Congratulations to all of you on this next adventure, on this new season you're about to move into. So without further ado, Freddie and Leslie, this week's shout out goes to you. Okay, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for your patience and allowing me to release this one day late. We have 2 more episodes of Star Wars Visions to cover, so we have 2 more weeks of Star Wars Visions, and then after that, we might do maybe another live stream. Who knows? Definitely looking forward to Kenobi at the end of May, but regardless of what happens, you're going to get a fresh new episode each week. So until next time, please be well, be safe, and may the Force be with you.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited, and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.